Everyone, this is BDC Planning Committee. Welcome to the meeting of the Babergh Planning Committee. I will ask Claire to read out the fire instructions and domestic arrangements. I knew there was something I forgot.
Thank you, Chair. This meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be recorded except where there are confidential or exempt items. If any member of the public attending the meeting objects to being filmed, please advise us immediately and we will ensure that they are not included in the filming. Members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. If you are intending to do so, please could you let us know? May I please request that mobile phones are on silent or switched off and that your laptops are switched to silent. If you hear the fire alarm, please leave the building immediately via a fire exit, which is in the corner there, and make your way to the assembly point at Ipswich Town Football Ground. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. With us today are the Area Planning Manager, Mark Russell. Our legal advisor today is Ian Dupre, and our case officer is Rose Rimmel, and you've already met our governance officer, Claire. Can I move to the agenda, please? Yes, fine. Apologies for absence and substitutions. Do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Register and Councillor Smith is substituting. We've also received apologies from Councillor Holt, and I believe Councillor Beer is not in attendance.
Thank you. To receive declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest and other registrable and non-registrable interests by members. Are there any to declare? Councillor Dowling.
I know the applicant.
Have you had a word with?
Yes, Councillor Dowling spoke to me. It's not the case to give a proper view.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I have also met the applicant.
You've met the applicant. Shouldn't be a problem. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. I don't know the applicant, but I'm aware that I'm on a WhatsApp group that they're also on. But I don't actually know them.
Okay, no problem. Councillor Osborne.
Just trying to get hold of the governance officer.
Do you need Mandy to help you?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Any more? No. Declarations of lobbying. Are there any to declare? Councillor Mabry.
Thank you, Chairman. I have had two, which I have reported both to the monitoring officer and our legal advisor,
Okay.
and they have said that that's fine.
Yes, Councillor Mabry showed the option to see, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Grandin.
I presume quite a lot of other councillors on this committee have received a communication from the applicant, and I've been advised that I presume we should be treating it as lobbying from the applicant.
Yes, I think, there was a note, the applicant sent a note their solicitors had written to them. Did that go to every member of the committee? It did, okay. That's it, yes, that's a form of lobbying, yes, certainly, that should be noted.
Noted.
I'm assuming, Councillor Smith, you didn't receive that one because...
I didn't receive it directly, but I've had sight of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right. Declarations of personal site visits. No. Right. We move on to item 5, BPL 2415, confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of February 2025, included in the table papers. Are there any points regarding the accuracy of these minutes? No. In that case, could I have a proposer, please, to accept the minutes? Councillor Mabry, seconded Councillor Wyman. Government officer will now conduct an electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. Councillor Maybury, your vote hasn't come through to me. Has that gone on yours? And Councillor Osborne. Thank you. Councillor Osborne, your vote hasn't come through. Should I take it verbally?
Councillor Osborne?
4, thank you.
4, thank you.
Chair, that's 7 votes for and 2 abstentions. It's carried.
Sorry, thank you. Minutes have been confirmed and will be signed. Item 6, receive notification of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme.
Thank you, Chair. We have received a petition containing 57 validated signatures, which reads as follows. To support and approve the planning application for Lavenham Wellness Centre reference DC 2404224. This is a genuine application and will serve to benefit the village. We believe that such a facility would provide a wide range of benefits, including, but not limited to, physical and mental health support. The Wellness Centre would provide access to fitness programmes and treatments that promote healthy lifestyles and contribute to the emotional well-being of our community members. Social connection. The Wellness Centre would foster a sense of community by providing spaces for group activities and events designed to improve overall well-being. Economic impact. The establishment of such a facility would generate local jobs, attract visitors and contribute positively to the local economy. Environmental considerations. A thoughtfully designed centre would emphasise sustainability and environmental wellness, potentially serving as a model for future developments in our area. We believe that the development of this centre will greatly enhance the quality of life for all residents. By signing this petition, we demonstrate our collective support for this project and urge the authorities to prioritise its approval and implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Site inspections.
No requests.
No requests? Thank you. Right. Move on to item 8, BPL 2416, Schedule of Planning Applications, DC 2404224, Second Meadow Stables, Brent Ely Road, Lavenham. We will get the officer to present it to us. Those who get yourself ready. In the meantime, can I just confirm with Councillor Maybury that you're staying on the committee?
Yes, I am. Thank you. And if I can also declare, this application has been forward before in a previous form, but I am completely open to what is being presented to us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. I will now ask the council, the case officer Rose Rimmel, to introduce. Shout at us, Rose.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. This application at Second Meadow Stables in Lavenham is for outline planning permission with all matters reserved for the erection of a wellness centre with the removal of existing structures. This is the site with the River Brett to the east. There are some existing buildings of the former stabling on site, horse walker and a manege on to the north with an existing access to the south. In terms of immediate context, there's the direct neighbours to the north of Lavenham Studios, the River Brett to the east, and there is also a public right-of-way that runs adjacent to the river, and arable fields surrounded with some equestrian paddocks to the south. In terms of wider context, Lavenham is to the north, approximately 300 metres to the nearest point of the settlement boundary, and Brent Ely is approximately 2.5 kilometres south-east. In terms of constraints, the site is located within flood zones 2 and 3, with the public right-of-way running immediately adjacent to the east. Other than being outside of the settlement boundary, there are no other constraints on the site. An indicative site layout has been provided, which shows the approximate location of the main wellness centre building and its footprint, which would include the swimming pool, a cafe, kiosk, existing buildings to remain as treatment rooms, parking area to the north, a new vehicle access here, and the existing access would be retained to serve the paddocks to the south. An indicative landscape plan has also been provided, which shows some tree planting and hedgerow planting, a grass pathway, rain garden planting, a green roof to the cafe, kiosk and treatment rooms, and a lawn swale and detention basin here. In terms of connectivity, the site is located outside of the settlement boundary along the A1141, which doesn't have a footpath. Therefore, the pedestrian access would need to come from the public right-of-way footpath 1 to the east. Footpath 1 starts at the settlement boundary and terminates down at the east and runs directly past the site. Footpath 2 runs along here, and the applicant has had discussions with the public right-of-way team to connect these two footpaths. These are just some photos showing the experience of walking footpath 1 to the site from Lavenham. So this is the entrance to the footpath and a few examples of the experience of walking it. And this is the footpath as you meet the site here. Just going to take you through some photos now of the site as existing. These are the existing buildings to be retained as treatment rooms. This is a view from the public right-of-way looking towards the site at the approximate location of the cafe. This is looking at the buildings to be demolished in the approximate location of the main building. And another view from the east looking at the building to be demolished where the main building would approximately be. And the recommendation is to refuse planning permission due to being located outside the settlement boundary, contrary to policy SP03 in an unsustainable location, failing to provide safe and suitable access for all potential users due to poor connectivity to the surrounding area and accessibility into the site, causing heavy reliance on the use of private cars. Thank you. The reasons for refusal is due to being located outside the settlement boundary, contrary to policy SP03, in an unsustainable location, failing to provide safe and suitable access for all potential users due to poor connectivity to the surrounding area and accessibility into the site, causing heavy reliance on the use of private cars.
Chair, if I may just confirm. Made that point, I can't be heard now. Hopefully I can now. Mrs. Rimmel Rose, just to confirm, so we're all sure, there was a reason number 3 for refusal. That has fallen away, has it?
Yes, number 3 has fallen away.
Questions for the case officer? Councillor Maybury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we have slide 6 up again, please? Thank you. Right. Can you confirm that the red line actually includes the original or existing entranceway? Because I thought that was staying with the rest of the land for the stabling area or the horse area, whatever you'd like to call it. So am I right in thinking that the actual red line for the development line actually includes that entranceway as well?
It does, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Grandin.
Thank you, Chair. There's a lot in the report about flooding, which
I'm terribly sorry, I didn't quite understand. And sometimes someone talked about it being, or as I seem to understand it, that it was liable to flooding, and then I seem to read somewhere else that it wasn't going to be liable to flooding, and I couldn't quite work out what the conclusion is, or maybe I just didn't understand the different terminology. So I wonder if you could explain the situation about flooding in relation to this application in simple terms.
We're going to see if we can find the flood zone map. So this did come up at the last, at the original planning application, was one of the reasons for refusal. The larger area is subject to flood risk. I think it's in flood zones 2 and 3 partly. We're just going to check that. There's a 1 in 30-year chance of pluvial flooding, i.e., water staying there, rainwater not being able to disperse. What happened following the first application was that the applicant did a sequential test and found that there was no other available land within the district, and that was agreed with by our economic development officer. This was last summer, so that's how that one was set aside. They'd done a sequential test and they passed the sequential test.
Councillor Wyman.
Thank you, Chair. Rose, could you take us back to slide 6 again? I think that's the one with the buildings on, please. Indicatively, in the report under 3.9, the addendum note, we talk about 500 square metres of building, indicatively. Are we talking about the footprint of the buildings which is shown there in the sort of browny, sort of tanny colour?
Yeah, so indicatively the new buildings would cover that area of footprint, and there would be some buildings remaining that are already on site.
If we were to, say, overturn the refusal potential today, would that mean that the applicant is restricted to 500 square metres, or could that go beyond that?
It's all reserved matters, so it could go beyond, it could change at reserved matters.
If I may, Chair, sorry, I think the applicant will probably tell you this, but the 500 is linked to a flood management scheme, and that formed part of that. It's premised on a 500 square metre building, so it's likely that is how big it will be, but as Rose says, that is a reserved matter.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Dowling.
Thank you, Chair. On table 5, on page 27 of the report, there's a lot of possibly relevant policies listed. LP9, supporting a prosperous economy, is listed, but then isn't discussed in the report. I wonder whether you can say more about the relevance of LP9, please.
So table 5 only relates to paragraph 2 of LP09, which relates to employment in residential curtilage. And so in this case, that policy doesn't apply.
Yes.
So just to come back, so why are you discounting subparagraph 1 of LP9, please?
So policy SP03 lists table 5 and the paragraphs that allow for development outside of settlement boundaries. With LP09, it's only paragraph 2 that allows for development outside of settlement boundaries, with paragraph 1 relating to inside the settlement boundary.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I just had a few questions on how people get to and from the wellness centre. Could you just flick back to the photographs of the footpath, please? Okay. I know the report does say that you can come down the footpath, but that looks as though it's not made up. And if the wellness centre is operating at night, there's no lighting there, which makes it a little bit more tricky. Do we know how well used this footpath is?
I don't have that information currently as to how often it is used.
Okay. I also noticed reference to a bus stop. So presumably there's a bus service. Where does that go to and from, and how often and how late does it run?
There is a bus service that runs through Lavenham. I believe there's one that goes to Sudbury, but I don't have the information as to what time that ran, but I can get that for you.
Maybe
Maybe we can ask that
might be able to
question.
answer that.
One of the public speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Grandin.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Davis, can you take your mic off, please?
Next door to the site are stables with they're not. I don't think they're being used as stables. They're being used as other things that the public can go to. I can't remember what they are now, but maybe you can mention it. But I presume that's also outside the settlement boundary, and did those places have to seek planning permission to change of use from stables to the commercial development that they're doing now, please?
Are you referring to Lavenham Studios, which is directly north? Yes.
Sorry, yes.
Yes, so I'm not sure what they were originally, but I can find that out. They do operate businesses from there, and it is outside the settlement boundary. I believe it may have been approved under our old local plan, but we can find that out for you.
It was about 8 years ago, Councillor.
So can you speak up?
The permissions were about 8 years ago, so they were under the old plan.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you, Chair. In our notes, it talks about, with regard to flooding, sustainable drainage swale. And on the map, which was up there, there's a blue area. It says proposed new swale detention basin. What is sustainable drainage swale, or is that something I should ask somebody else?
So it is an area that helps to collect the water so that it doesn't remain on the surface of the site. Unfortunately, I can't really give much more of a description.
Councillor Maybury.
Thank you, Chairman. One other question. Can we go back to the flood areas, please? Then it will make more sense when I ask my question, hopefully. Thank you. From the site visit that most of us were on, it was my impression that the land is actually lower than the river. Do we know if that is true? I know that there was a bit of a hump as you got onto the public right-of-way, but is the actual land that this is planned for actually lower than the river, or don't we know?
From visiting the site, I can say that the land where the wellness centre would be does lie slightly lower than the river, yes.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions for the officer? Councillor Wyman.
Hey, Chair. While you got that, sorry, Bruce. While you got that slide up, excuse me, is there any data that we can draw from which indicates how often the public right-of-way is potentially not accessible due to, water inundation or rising water levels?
Certainly for the pluvial aspect of it, as in rain, it's a 1 in 30 year possibility. So, 1 in 30 years footpath could be flooded. We don't have the equivalent data for the fluvial flooding, as in from the river. Yeah. Obviously, you can see zones 2 and 3, so there is obviously a risk.
Thank you. Any more questions for the officer? We can always come back if we want something more clarified. Okay. Thank you. We have public speakers now. First one is a representative of the Parish Council, Irene Mitchell.
Good morning.
You have 3 minutes to address the committee, okay?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, councillors and officers. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. Lavenham Parish Council welcomes the officer's report and recommendation. This gives us confidence that this council, that is Lavenham, has approached the application in an appropriate manner. I draw to your attention the large amount of the public support comments. Most of these do not declare residential addresses in Lavenham Parish and in many cases are also not within Babergh. Today our aim is to provide local detail to demonstrate that the proposal does not comply with the NPPF 2024, paragraphs 117A and 117B. These set out in policy that all applications for development, whether new or replacement, should give priority first to pedestrian and cycle movements. The application proposes that the existing public footpath would satisfy the requirements of the NPPF. This path, with an earth and grass surface and passing across meadow grassland and alongside a riverbank, is also very uneven. The footpath is unlit and does sometimes flood. It's not usable on a year-round basis. It's not suitable for those less confident in walking and completely unusable for most needing to use wheelchairs or child pushchairs to reach the site. The officer's report notes that the footpath would unlikely be used by many of the potential users of the proposed centre. It also considers it highly likely that the majority of potential users would travel by private car. That is, provided they have access to a vehicle. Here are some facts from the 2021 census and the lower super output areas in Lavenham Parish. Of the 999 households, 159, representing 16%, do not own a vehicle. In 2 of those output areas, this proportion is significantly higher. The zone including Spring Street, it's 26%, and the area which includes Tenterpiece and Meadow Close, it's 31%. Those residential locations are where most of the village's social housing is located. So if residents don't have access to a vehicle and there is no safe and year-round pedestrian option, the proposal cannot be considered to be inclusive for the whole community. The Parish Council is supportive of the concept of a wellness centre for our local population, but this must be within the settlement and where it can be reached by all. This proposal fails to do so. It is respectfully requested that you refuse this application. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Questions for the speaker? Can I quickly ask you a question? Bus travel down this road. Down Brent Ely Road, what buses? Do you know?
There is one bus in the morning which goes to Bilderston that is principally for schools and only runs during school time, and it returns late afternoon after school time. There is no bus stop as such on the Brent Ely Road at that point.
Thank you. Just clarified that for us. Any more questions for the speaker? Councillor Wyman.
Thank you. Could you just repeat the point on the petition, please? I missed the point about postcodes and the number of potentially relevant or non-relevant signatories.
We know that there was a number of supports logged onto the portal, and we know that there were petitions presented both to the Parish Council and to Babergh. Look closely at them and you will discover that the majority of supports are not from Lavenham and some are not from within Babergh. That does not accord to my understanding of the Babergh policy on acceptance of petitions.
So your assertion
John,
is...
John,
sorry.
one moment. Councillor, Claire, can you...
Just confirm that the petition we received had 57 validated signatures and 19 that were rejected because of the address. Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. There may be a confusion between the petition and separate representations, which we have. I think we've got a map, if that's okay, to show where they came from.
One moment.
Sorry.
You're happy with the answer you've got? You wish to clarify it a little bit further, or you think you can? You said you wanted to clarify it. You had a...
Yes, we have a map showing the locations of the supporters and the objectors, if that would be helpful.
Yes, please. Any more questions for our speaker?
Chair, may I just ask the Parish Council, I'm sorry, I think my hearing phone I'm not switched on yet. Sorry about that. What was the point about the NPPF? Could you just say that I misheard the paragraph, I think. You said
I'm referring to the NPPF 2024 paragraphs 117A and B, which are a repeat of the NPPF 2023, but different paragraph numbers.
So 117A and B.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions for the speaker? Rose, you've got your map. And what I'm going to do first of all is thank our speaker, and then you can take us through the map. Thank you very much. Rose?
Okay, so we've just got a couple of maps here showing the locations of the objector comments and supporter comments. Objectors, majority from Lavenham, with supporter comments, vast majority from outside of the district, about 25% from Lavenham.
And the other one?
Sorry, that is the two that up there. Objector comments on the left-hand side and supporter comments on the right-hand side.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions over the slide? No? Right. Thank you. We will move on. We have no other objector registered. I understand we have Mr. Michael Sherman, who's a supporter, is going to address the committee. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, Councillors. I must declare that I am a parish councillor, but I am not representing the parish council in any way, shape or form. I speak as the chair of the new Lavenham revision plan that failed in 2023. Several of the points that have been made about the footpath to you from my learned friends, one of them states that the councillor got soaking wet feet walking on the footpath. I have to point out that that was the council's, parish council's part of the footpath. They hadn't mowed the lawn, it was long grass and we had to walk through the long grass. The footpath entrance is actually in the wrong place. It should be halfway along Lower Road. That has been declared by several of my learned friends. I would also point out that we do have, and it hasn't shown on any of your papers, a support comment from Councillor Paul Clover, who was very much for the development. I've had the time on this revision to read through both LMP1 and the failed LMP2. In that paragraph, and the paragraphs for the wants of the village, either first or second on every poll was the desire for the public to have a swimming pool. I don't see how this can be removed from the planning or from the parish council statement. The footpath is heavily used. I've actually personally been down there for the day, because obviously I know Pippa and the other applicant, and I counted 20 people walking dogs in the time I was down there, which is quite a fair thing. In the failed LMP2, and I'm sorry to keep referring it to fail, but it did fail, as you all know, on the vote, the referendum. In both LMP2 and LMP1, they both state that the footpath is an excellent footpath, but in planning it suddenly becomes a muddy track. I don't see how the two can be done. and nobody has taken in the fact that this is outline planning permission. The applicants would not put in the fact that they want to grasscrete the footpath to keep it biodiversity friendly and friendly for other people. We won't put lights on there because it's an area of natural beauty, and nobody wants lights in an area of natural beauty. I would like you also to consider that there are no other objections other than the Parish Council and Brent Ely Parish Council. All of the consultees, EA and everybody else have no objections to this site being developed. It just seems to be we can't get it past the planning stage, and I would like you councillors to please consider those points and bear in mind this is for outline consent. All the things about you're not happy about, like footpaths and everything else.
You've had your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. Any questions to the Speaker? Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. You said that the public in Lavenham want a swimming pool. Where's their nearest swimming pool at the moment?
The nearest swimming pools, you could say there was one in Preston St Mary. That's an outside pool, so it can't be used year round. The nearest indoor swimming pool to us is the Kingfisher Leisure Pool in Sudbury. We all know the history of the pool. It's been out of commission, and it is literally probably near on 7 miles from the centre of Lavenham to, I can't confirm that's an actual measurement, I haven't measured it, but it is a good bus ride to the swimming pool. They're the only 2 pools that I'm aware of in the industry, in the area, sorry.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. It might not be a question for the Speaker. It's about Mr Sherman's comment about Councillor Clover. If Councillor Clover supported this...
Councillor Clover, we have a statement from him to read out later
Thank
on.
you.
So we have a statement from Councillor Clover that comes after everybody else. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. Could you tell me what grasscrete is? I know it's something to do with concrete, but how long a stretch of grasscrete would be laid?
Grasscrete isn't concrete. It is a plastic hexagon shape that you press into the ground and you fill it with topsoil and plant grass, or you can fill it with gravel. It makes an even surface that water can drain straight through. It doesn't hold any water, and it makes a fine walking surface without damaging the landscape in any way, shape or form. We can't, or the applicant can't, put it on First Meadow, which is the council's part of the footpath, but from the start of the footpath, where it comes from First Meadow to Second Meadow, the footpath will be concreted from there to the end of the footpath and to where it will, where Prowl have given permission to join footpath 2 to footpath 1 to save pedestrians. At the moment, the footpath goes right down past the site, then they have to walk back along Brent Ely Road to connect with the other footpath, but Prowl have given permission for the footpath to be moved, and that will also be grass-created and screened with hedging.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Wyman.
Thank you, Chair. This may be a question maybe for the applicant, but I'll still ask it because the supporter talked to it. The access, from my knowledge, not your particular access, but the minimum standard that Suffolk County Council would require for sustainable pedestrian use, etc., also with sort of disabled access, potentially on a right of way. Would you expect to bring the standard up to the minimum standard that Suffolk County Council require should the development go ahead?
I think I can answer this. We've been in touch, or the applicant has been in touch with Highways and they have been down to see where the proposed entrance is, and they say it meets all of their scope of vision in both directions, and we would be guided, or the applicant, sorry, would be guided by anything highway say. But at the moment, they've said they have no objections to where the entrance is or the scope of vision as you come out of that entrance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We now have the applicant to speak. Pippa Mullen, you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Thank you, Chair and Councillors. As this application is for outline permission, I appreciate it may be difficult to fully envisage what I'm trying to achieve. So I want to take this opportunity to share my vision. I'm looking to create a centre to support holistic wellness for everyone who visits. Whatever they do there, I want them to leave feeling better than when they arrived. This is the ethos of Lavenham Wellness Centre. There'll be a small gym, pool, treatment rooms, a healthy cafe, a sensory garden, including a communal herbal garden. All members of the community will be welcome, residents, visitors, business owners, and we've already committed to support and work with local groups, including supporting people with accessibility needs and some with rehabilitation support. There is a lot of support, and yes, some of it is outside Lavenham. That is because Lavenham boasts that it's a tourist centre. 9 out of the 10 objections relate to flooding. All flooding matters have been resolved, so they should be discounted. You will hopefully have seen also our commitment to sustainability and carbon net neutral. In fact, as far as I can see, it will be the first publicly accessible indoor pool in the country which is solely geothermally heated. This will be an exemplar site for Babergh and Lavenham. For those of you who attended on site, you will have seen the limited amount of proposed extra building, just 500 square metres. We've had to do that for all our flood calculations. You will have also seen the footpath, which has been talked about quite a bit, but it's fully supported by PROW and is a direct link to the village, less than a 5-minute walk away. The link to the village is the only issue that the council has. Let's Swim has a similar position outside the settlement boundary, but with no path. Babergh agreed to this with no challenge. I've tried numerous times to engage with the council to no avail. I even suggested that I could mitigate their concerns by adding a condition that no major works could commence until any footpath upgrades are completed. They have rejected this idea. No reasons, no engagement, no proposal as to what would be acceptable to them. This is contrary to planning practice guidance. There's been no judgment of significant harms, so no environmental or technical reasons to refuse. In fact, no expert objections remain, including all flooding concerns. They have been removed. All concerns can be addressed through conditions. Hopefully, some of you will have seen my solicitor's report, written by a top planning lawyer, supporting all of what I'm saying on this. And on this basis, if you're unable to agree to an approval, I would ask you to just defer this decision so that I can engage again with the planning team to try and resolve this issue around connectivity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 points I'd like to ask, if I may, please.
Sorry?
I have 3 points I'd like to ask, if I may. Quick ones. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I have 3 points I'd like to ask you, please. One, do you plan it to be a membership club? And, you know, will the public be welcome?
So in the business plan, there will be options, multiple options. So you will be able to subscribe on a monthly basis for local people, which will be discounted rates. We are going to be working with local bed and breakfasts and residential places to offer weekly or daily membership. So there's a whole range of flexibilities that we will be working with. So no, it is not restricted just to members. Everybody will be welcome.
That was what I was concerned about.
Yeah, no, everybody will be welcome.
Okay, thank you. So linked to that, public access to the swimming pool. It was said in one of the comments that the public are wanting a swimming pool and there isn't one nearby. So the residents of Lavenham and elsewhere will be able to attend the swimming pool on a fairly ad hoc basis if they wish.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Obviously, this isn't a full application, so we don't know what the building will look like, but it would be part of my decision making. How many stories is the building going to be?
So for our flood mitigation and flood compensation calculations, we had to put in all our measurements. So whilst it's outlined, we are actually tied into those measurements already. So when you attended on site, we actually marked it out with them. So that's the size of the building. It will be 2 floors.
Ground floor and first?
Yeah. It will be more or less the same height as the neighbouring studios that you would have seen. Not intrusive. Our commitment, though, is to make it carbon net neutral. So from a visual point of view, it will be solar panel clad, but there's so many different ways that you can address solar panels. So visually, there'll be a lot of glass, a lot of solar panels, but it won't stand out.
Yes, materials fitting into the countryside.
So we've put a statement on the portal that we're looking to do everything as sustainably as possible. So we're looking to do recycled steel frame. We will clad it with one-way mirror solar panels, so it will reflect the hills that you can see on the other side of the river. And then the people in the pool will have privacy, but they will be able to look out and see the view. We're going to have green roofs on all the buildings except for the main building, because the weight of the green roof will be too much for that. We're very, very aware of the visual impact, but the principle for me is sustainability, and we want to make it carbon net neutral, definitely. But we will work with local architects. We'll be using local architects who understand the area as to what will be acceptable or not.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I understand it's early days, but in terms of employment, do you have a sense of how many jobs will be involved in when the project's complete?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's in the business plan. So we're talking about 8 full-time positions, but we'll also be offering volunteering opportunities so that people will be able to volunteer within the site, a whole range of opportunities, gardening, maintenance, but on the back of that, we will obviously give them discounted access to the facilities. And I'm really clear that volunteers don't take over proper full-time employment.
I'm not. Councillor Spoon.
Thank you. How do you address concerns about car access for people who can't or won't walk?
So, as was mentioned, we will have a new entrance. It meets all the highways conditions already because we did that for the previous application, 160 metre splays, and that will be all dealt with under reserved matters. Next door is, yes, it is a 60 mile an hour speed limit, just on the edge of the 30 mile an hour. Next door, at Craft Studios, exactly the same access challenges. They don't have access to the public right of way though. And there are multiple businesses on that road that are 60 mile an hour. So we will just meet the highway standards, and they've confirmed that we can do that.
Councillor Maybury, you were first.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. You mention, there is a mention in the application that you're going to use both geothermal and air source heat pumps. Why are you using both, please? That's the first question.
Shall I answer that now? Yeah. So geothermal will be for the pool. We've got 11 acres on the site that we can use. they are very successful and have a good proven track record. The air source, we're exploring that. We went to a pool and spa conference last month, spoke to experts. They say there is use for air source. They're thinking more around you would cool, you would have, you would warm the pool area, and then you'd have the negative heat into the gym to keep people cooler. So we're going to explore it, but definitely ground source is for the pool.
Okay, thank you. My second question, if I may.
Carry on.
You made a comment about let's swim. I didn't understand that. I may have misheard what you were saying, or I couldn't hear it at all.
Yeah, so the point I was making is that Let's Swim is outside the settlement boundary of Hadley. It's on a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. It has no direct public right-of-way. So in effect, it's more detrimental than our site. And Babergh approved it with no conditions and no challenges.
Councillor Carruthers, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I know it's early days, but would there be somewhere to park bicycles on the site? There would.
Yeah, definitely, and e-chargers. So we will meet all those standards. We've put that already as a commitment that we would do that.
Yes, carry on.
I'm aware that you've said that the flooding risk isn't considered a problem anymore, but to me, looking at where it is, I can't help but worry about that. If the site were to flood, you might not be able to answer this. If the site were to flood, this might sound silly, but what happens to the swimming pool water? Supposing there was a huge flood, would the swimming pool water all end up in the river contaminating?
So the way that it will be built is that obviously water won't get into the building because of the type of material we would use. There's no evidence at the moment that the water level rises anywhere near that. It is on a floodplain, so we've spent a lot of time with mitigation, calculations. There will be compensation storage that will be put into the site, attenuation storage. What we want to do is work with a water engineer. It's on a floodplain. I really want to utilise that. So actually look to recycle the water, use grey water. We will be doing that also with green roof collection. The plan is to do water engineering to do as carbon net zero as much as we can. So effectively use the site and any potential flooding. There is water attenuation that will be built into the site. There's the swales that have been mentioned as well, and the SUDS plan. All the drainage will work together. We've also already cleared out a whole range of ditches. There's a whole big ditch that's been cleared out between us and the studios. That's always been there, that ditch. We've just cleared it out. We've cleared out all the ditches along Brent Ely Road, and we've done an awful lot of work with the Environment Agency, and we're actually flooding the lower fields to take the pressure of the River Brent off the top part of the fields. So we're sacrificing land at the bottom end of Second Meadows to actually help the top end of Brent Ely Road. And this year, it definitely worked. We got a lot of praise from the EA, and Brent Ely Road did not flood as it had previously done. So really conscious of the flooding thing.
Thank you. Councillor Davies, you are next.
Thank you. Have you done any analysis on what percentage of people are likely to walk, what percentage of people are likely to use a car, what percentage of people are likely to cycle, and how do you think your business plan copes with accessibility for those who are less able?
So I believe the parish council representative said 16% of Lavenham don't have cars. So, there'll be a percentage of them, say we've got a lot of interest and support, they will walk. In answer to your question, in truth, no, I haven't done a full calculation. It's not been a requirement. Highways have not requested us to do that. There's no objection from Highways. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
How you were going to cater for those who are less able to walk to get to your facility?
So in the business plan, we talk about having an e-bus or e-taxi, which we would own. People could phone us up, we would come and collect them. This is a real commitment from us that this is about community. It's about giving access to the community to wonderful services in a wonderful location. And we will work with the community to find out what they need. And we're also very aware of the environment. You know, we want to be as sustainable as possible. So that is already in the business plan, that we would make that offer.
Okay, thank you. Can I follow up?
Whoa, Councillor Smith first, Councillor Davis. Councillor Smith, you were poised and ready.
Thank you. Going back to the swimming pool and membership, I'm aware that some health centres don't encourage families to come in, or they restrict the times when children can swim there. Are there plans in place for the families? What access would children have to your pool?
Yes, absolutely. We've approached the primary school and made that offering to them, that we'd love to be able to get children at the primary school to be able to have space and time to learn to swim. So yes, definitely.
Okay.
Back to Councillor Davis.
One moment. Councillor Davis, I think I'm going to allow you to ask questions, but please, we are talking about an outline planning application. We're not talking about all the many other subjects many of you have brought up. I've allowed it to run on because I think it's giving the applicant the chance to express their case. But please, it is an outline application that we're looking at. Councillor Davis, have you got a question?
No, I think it's been answered upon reflection. Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers.
Very quickly, I just wanted to clarify something, thinking about the flooding again. So do you own the paddocks that are to the south of the site? Because there's like 6 fields that go all the way around.
So Christopher Robinson is the owner. He's my partner. It's 12 acres. He owns it all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Catherine Grandin, like a break? Right, I'm going to have a pause there for 5 minutes. May I remind you that you're in mid-session, so not to talk to anybody else or even your colleagues about the subject until we get back in this room. Thank you. welcome back. We're all set to start. Right. First, I'm going to ask, is there any more questions for the applicant about the outline planning application? I'm sorry I've got to be that strict, but that's what we're here to consider. Fine. Then thank you very much. Moving on, we now have a statement from the other ward member for Lavenham, Councillor Paul Clover, and Claire will read it to you.
Thank you, Chair. There is no doubt that a wellbeing and leisure centre could be an additional attraction to the residents of Lavenham and beyond. In that regard, I would support any new business initiative that is deemed to be of benefit to the community. However, any such venue must be safe to use and not present an undue risk to users and employees alike. In the case of application DC 2404224, there are some serious concerns as to how various issues can be overcome. High flood risk, Zone 3. Running in a southeasterly direction from Lavenham, following the course of the river and along the valley bottom towards the Ely's, there has been a serious flooding issue for many years, and the frequency of flooding incidents appears to be increasing recently. It is not uncommon for cars to be abandoned as a result in Lower Road, Lavenham. From the site visit, we can see that the proposed site occupies a lower level than the land to the northwest. Furthermore, it is surrounded by a river on its eastern flank and ditches on its northern and western flank to help deal with water runoff from the elevated ridges to the west and east of the site, plus the volume of water coming downstream from the river. Whatever mitigation may be proposed to prevent flooding, new developments will normally create their own flood risk footprint, and if any suds only mitigates against preventing flooding on site, it can be expected that the problems created downstream are greater ones than they currently are. It should also be noted that in one of the sustainability reports, the 11-acre site is titled as a wetland mosaic. In terms of flood risk assessment, I therefore believe this would be in contravention of the MPPF. Accessibility. There is no pedestrian paved access to the site. The road is narrow and twisting and therefore does not present as a particularly safe access for pedestrians. The nearest bus stop is 0.6 miles away in Lavenham. There is a footpath which serves the site from Lavenham running towards the Ely's. This runs alongside the river and in wetter months would be difficult to navigate, particularly for less able persons. Sustainable development. In terms of the site's relationship to the existing built settlement and its location in the countryside and poor connectivity, this application does not appear to meet the requirements of the JLP nor the neighbourhood plan. Summary. Unless the concerns outlined above can be comprehensively addressed, regrettably, I cannot support this application. Councillor Paul Clover, 13th of March 2025. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Right.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Before members go into debate, which would be the next move, wouldn't it? I think, as your legal advisor, because reference has been made to the long note from the solicitor that all members have got, I will just say something briefly about that, which I've got it here and it's been referred to by the applicant.
Which one?
I'm talking about the note.
Is that the report from
House Percival? Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
This.
Has everyone seen that?
I think I asked and I asked and I was told every member had got it, and Councillor Smith has had it passed to her. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So you've all seen it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to make a brief comment. Hello, Mr. Monitoring Officer. Thank you. Right. Well, I'm just going to go back to first principles briefly. It's always a good idea. As it's very clear in the report, and you're all on this committee, you know, without being reminded, planning decisions, you've got section 38, subsection 6 in the beginning of your report. Make a decision in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. Now, we've had some cases go to court, High Court, Court of Appeal, involving our council, Babergh and Mid Suffolk, my other employer, and it's what the judges have said is planning policy has to be interpreted, and interpretation is a matter for lawyers and judges if there's any doubt about it, but it then has to be applied, and the application of a policy is a matter of planning judgment for the local planning authority, for the officers if they're making the decision or making a recommendation, and then for you as the committee to consider that and make your own planning judgment. And I think I'm not being unfair to this long report if I say it's basically an extended claim that it's arguing for a different interpretation. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, a different application of the policy to the one that the officers have made. I have read the officers' report quite carefully. It seems to me that they have identified the correct policies. They've referred you to SP03 and to the Table 5, and they've gone through quite carefully the relevant policies in Table 5 that you have on page 27, is it? Have I got that right, of the report? SP07, and then LP, yeah, the LPs, basically LP 2831, and there was another one, wasn't there? Was it LP 12.2? Yes. There was a reference in the report, the solicitor's report, to LP09, but Councillor Dowling asked a question about that, and I noted you've had your answer from Mark and Rose on that. I think that deals with that adequately. So I think there isn't. I don't see any legal error in the report. But having said that, it often happens in planning that there's an approval would be lawful, but a refusal would be equally lawful, and it's a matter of planning judgment. You've got your officer's planning judgment, interpretation of the policies, and you've had a suggestion from the applicant that it's mistaken and there should be preferred. So, I mean, in terms of, and just on the issue of postponement, your officers are not recommending a postponement. It's always open to a committee to decide that they don't want to make a decision today. And I think everyone on this committee has been at a meeting where that's been either discussed or happened, usually because you're worried about a particular issue like highways, heritage, landscape, and you feel you haven't got enough information and aren't happy with the advice or recommendation on that. I'm not seeing anything like that on this case, but it's a matter for your judgment as to whether you think that would be a productive thing to do. But I think that's all really, that's the relevant law. And Mark, if you want to add any more to that on your comments on the policies and how they've been taken issue with, I'll leave that to you now.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just make the general point without getting into too much depth. The solicitor's letter did, respect to its author. We don't know who the author is, but we know who the company was. Often the policies they referred to had been gone directly to rather than going via SPO3. And we have to start with strategic policies, SPO3, start with that, look at the table. So the example you gave, the LPO91 is referred to, well, LPO92 is the relevant one. And that's employment land in residential curtilage, so that was incorrect. And similar error was made on LP12, and also reference to brownfield land, where the quote was talking about within a settlement. So we found these oversights within the letter, and we found nothing wanting, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you. Now, you've had all the clarification you need, I hope. In this case, I will open up the application to debate. Councillor Maybury, you're the sitting ward member. Would you like to start? I'm not making it compulsory, but I think you're prepared.
I shall, and thank you very much, Chairman. The first thing I would say is Councillor Clover's report I had not seen before, so I cannot be accused of being lobbying or anything with that. So that's the first time I've heard it. Lavenham is a very innovative village. It used to be a town, it's now a village. And I will say that something like a wellness centre for the support of the community is a good idea, but it has to be in the right place, which is also what Councillor Clover has said. What concerns me is if there is such a need, which the applicant has actually suggested, then why is this not a full planning application? Then we know how high the building's going to be. Then we know exactly where the building's going to be. Then we know exactly how drainage is going to be mitigated. I know we've had suggestions of it, but it always comes down to somebody going through and actually digging a hole in the ground. So that does concern me. It is in a floodplain, and my concern is even if this area has flooding mitigated on, that it is safe, what happens downstream? We already have serious problems downstream from flooding, mainly sort of, I'm trying to work out, I'm not very good with distances, but I'm going to say perhaps half a mile downstream. And it is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. We've had to have people actually released from vehicles that have been flooded. It is just huge. So that also absolutely worries me. I did ask this question in a previous briefing that we had with Council, which is where it states that flooding has to be within a lifetime, and the lifetime is 100 years. The suggestion here is that it will be every 30, flooding could be within 30 years, so that does not actually meet that criteria. I have heard about the plastic grassed area for the public right-of-way. Plastic is not environmentally friendly, and I would not be happy with that at all. I have walked that public right-of-way. When it is wet, it is really, really heavy, and I consider myself fit, attending a gym. It is really heavy going, and if I struggle, I'm sure other people would struggle. The safety of residents or anyone along the Brent Ely Road is paramount. The cars do speed along there. We have tried unsuccessfully to have speeding curtailed, but we need to be very aware that residents should not be put into any particular harm. So how can this be a safe route to this proposed building? I am also concerned about the entrances. I know there has been suggestion that the size of the entrance has been agreed by Highways. But again, if we had a full application, I feel that we could have given a better answer to this. So my answer to the application is, although it has its merits, I think it is the wrong place. I think it's going to put residents in danger. I think it's going to have adverse effects on future flooding downstream, and I cannot support it. But I have given it my utmost to try and support it, but I'm afraid I can't, and I would uphold the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. Anyone else? Councillor Wyman.
Thank you, Chair. I've got to completely agree with Councillor Maybury. I mean, the points that she's made are well made. A full detailed planning application would have been much better, so we could really consider the context of all the issues, particularly the access and the overall sustainability of the location. It's contrary to SPO3. It's not supported really by SPO7. I just can't see this sort of tourism destination kind of concept, which means that it leans heavily on access. It's commendable that, you know, that Lavenham swimming pool, I get all those points, but it's, as Councillor Maybury said, it's in the wrong place, and a more sustainable location would be far more favourable, I think, for the community. The points concerning the access on the public right of way, I know from experience that the county council would expect something a lot more than a plastic sort of, you know, whatever. And and those things are really important, because if they're not right, it won't work for the community. So again, I'd move to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Wyman. Councillor Dowling.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, I recognise and understand my colleagues' points. However, there are some positives that we also need to consider. This is, of course, in effect, a brownfield site. There is already building on it. The flood risks that people have talked about in our own officer's report have been mitigated. The report acknowledges that. This application, when it's completed, will offer employment, and it offers facilities which are desired by local residents and further afield. I do accept the point about the difficulties of access, and obviously that's something that needs to be further discussed. But as it stands at the moment, I'm minded to grant outline planning permission pending further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grandin.
Thank you, Chair. At the moment, I would agree with Councillor Dowling, because when we've talked about flood risk, we've questioned the applicant, and they seem to have taken the kind of mitigation that we see on other applications where there is flood risk. So, you know, I think the mitigation, particularly once it goes to the if it goes to the next stage, would be discussed and planned appropriately. They seem to be taking quite a responsible attitude to the flood situation, and seem to be proactive even now with regard to flooding, the flooding issue surrounding their land. And it seems to me that this is an application that would be used by the full community. I was a bit anxious that it was going to be a membership only, which was why I was asking such questions, that it was going to be a membership only site, in which case I wouldn't have felt quite so favourable. But the applicant said that it would be open to the full community, in particular schools or children. So I feel at the moment, unless I hear something that strongly sways me in a different direction, I would be supporting granting this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maybury, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was going to say that that's the point of order, that we're looking at the outline. That's all we can actually look at. Whatever an applicant actually puts forward to us verbally is absolutely wonderful, but unless we have full planning, we do not know what is there. And so that concerns me, of the comments that Councillor Grandin has made.
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. Stop me from giving a pep talk on outline planning permission. This application is, and many of the comments you've just made are not covered by the application. Sorry. Any more comments from anyone? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I'm finding it difficult to separate the comments about flooding when we've been told that flooding shouldn't be a consideration, but a lot of the potential objections seem to be around it. I would say that the main issue is one of access, but I tend to agree with Councillor Dowling that the potential mitigation factors outweigh the negatives.
Okay. Area Planning Manager, can you try and for me, as well as some of the others, clarify exactly what the situation is with the flooding and the mitigation and what effect that has on an outline planning application, if anything at all.
The responsible authorities, the Environment Agency and the Lead Local Flood Authority have not objected. They've both commented and not objected. So as experts in the field, there is no technical objection. The site itself and the wider area have a flood issue. Nobody can deny that. What happened, as I said earlier, after the first permission was that the applicant did a sequential test, which our economic development manager agreed with. This was last summer, saying there's no other available sites in the district, and therefore they passed the sequential test. So that's how we got to where we are now.
Thank you, Mark. So that it is not, let me make this absolutely clear, flooding is not on the list of reasons for refusal.
It's sort of, it's mentioned in passing on the connectivity issue because of the footpath.
Okay.
But the site itself, no.
Okay. So we all happy with that. Okay. Councillor Carruthers.
I'm still concerned about flooding. There is a climate emergency.
I'm sorry, but
okay.
To make this, to make your decision, you've got to be based on fact. Okay, and yeah, I think you can comment about it, but it's. Okay. I'm wondering whether we're not going on about it too much.
Sorry, Chair, may I?
You can rule it, yeah.
I would suggest that Councillor Carruthers makes her point, then I can give legal advice if necessary.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. The point I wanted to make was we assess flood risk now, but we're living through a time of a climate emergency and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We only know that it's likely to get worse, and it concerns me. That's all I wanted to say. I appreciate what the officers have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've sat here and listened to a very good officer's report on this, and I must admit the policies there are very strong policies to go against, and I agree with Councillor Wyman and Councillor Maybury. They are accurate definitions of what they're looking for, and I'm afraid I cannot, although as other councillors said, there are good parts to this application. I'm afraid the policies are too strong to be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Shall we see if anybody else wants to make a comment, Councillor? Anybody else? Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I actually think this is quite a tough one. I think the applicant's communicated her vision pretty well. My two issues were access and flooding. Flooding, we've heard from Mr. Russell on. My experience, though, is that what is happening in the planning world compared to experiences is there's a bit of a disconnect, but we have to go with what Mr. Russell says. Access, some of the reservations were addressed by the applicant's reference to an e-bus or an e-taxi to get those people in. So I thought that was a good thing, and I take the point about employment as well. And I just like the idea of the wellness centre. But I also have another concern, is that it's clearly stated in here that it does go against the neighbourhood plan. And we are asking people to do neighbourhood plans, and we need to support that. And I think Councillor Maybury's point about the full application coming forward is an excellent one. So I'm just erring on the side of no on this one, but it's a reluctant no.
Thank you. Councillor Maybury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have our officers' policies here, which we should adhere to, and supporting the neighbourhood plans is number one, I think, for all councillors. There is a comment, I understand that there is no further site. I bring to attention, if I may, and I'm sure our legal advisor will tell me if not, but there is a site allocated for development north of the village on Melford Road. Why has that not been looked at? So I will add that. It is an allocated site, and that probably would be a much better site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mabry. Any more comments? Anything else anybody wants to cover? Any other comments? Right. Can I have a proposer for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wyman. A seconder, Councillor Mabry. Can you clarify, please, Mark, exactly what you were on the...
Yes. So, members, it's if you look on your papers, it's reasons for refusal 1 and 2. Reason 3 is now being struck out.
You ready? Yep. I'll now ask Claire to do an electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. So a vote for would be a vote for refusal. A vote against would be a vote for approval. So you're voting for or against refusal of the application.
A vote for is a vote to refuse. A vote against means we'd have to go to another vote.
Mr. Chairman, 4 is to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, members. Chair, that's 6 votes for refusal and 3 votes against. Therefore, that is refused. Thank you.
Thank you. We have come to the end of our meeting with that refusal. I will now formally close the meeting, and fortnight's time possibly. Is that right, Claire? Mark? Yeah, fortnight. Might be. There's likely to be applications for a fortnight's time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.